Well, there's a very important Supreme Court decision going to be made in the coming months, and the case is being heard now. It has to do with what's called DACA, and this dates all the way back to the Obama administration. Abraham Hamilton III, Ed Vitagliano, I'm Tim Wildman, and we're going to tell you now why this is significant and why it's important. Ed, what are we talking about here?
Well, deferred action for childhood arrivals. This was a policy put into place by President Obama through executive action after he freely admitted, after being pressured, we got to do something with young people who have been brought to this country illegally by their parents when they were little children, but now have grown up in this country. They speak English. They don't know what community they came from. What do we do with these young people? President Obama freely admitted that he could do nothing legally about these constitutionally, and it was up to Congress. Congress couldn't get it passed. Right. So finally, President Obama said, well, we are going to communicate our desires, his desires, to those officials who are in charge of immigration, not to do anything to these DACA young people, defer any action. And now what's happened is President Trump comes in. He wants to overturn that policy, given the quick version of this. And the federal courts have said you can't do that because all these young people, businesses, industries have been dependent upon the DACA executive order of President Obama, and now it's before the Supreme Court.
Whether you agree or disagree with the policy that the Obama administration instituted here with this DACA executive order, that's really not the question at hand for the Supreme Court, is it, Dave?
It's not, and shouldn't be at all the question at hand. The issue that the court should be grappling with basically and fundamentally is whether or not a sitting president has the constitutional authority to rescind an executive order issued by a previous president. That and that alone is the constitutional question. Whether you agree with the president's policy or not is not even up for debate. And the fact that we've arrived at a place where a legal case has been appealed all the way up to the Supreme Court on a fundamental discussion on the separation of powers is an indication, in my view, of the abject bankruptcy that we have in our federal judiciary.
Yeah, that's a good point you make, because this had to rise to the level of the Supreme Court on what should be about a 2 to 3 minute question.
Very simply, an executive order issued by the previous president,
right.
Subsequent president can keep it or can change it,
right.
because it's within their powers.
And that happens every change of administration. That happens on hundreds of executive orders. Right. It's only this one that's being challenged at the Supreme Court. Well, we'll follow it and see what happens. But then when we warn about electing presidents who appoint liberal activist judges, that's exactly what we're talking about, because this is what happens when they operate on feelings rather than on the law. We'll see you next time on Reason and Company.